So this is a case that this apparently happened, I think, 6 years ago. But it's in the news again. A police officer said, "I don't have time for this," before shooting an 18-year-old with a mental illness dead in his home, his mother says. Now, one thing that I want to say when it comes to police brutality is people with disabilities of any kind, whether they be physical or mental, they are treated not as second-class citizens, not as third-class citizens, but somewhere in the realm of like ninth-class citizens. Cops especially. I covered a story last year of someone by the name, I believe, of Tony Timpa, who was murdered by police, given improper drugs, and then murdered by police. And while this man was dying, the police officers were making fun of him and calling him, slurs, just mocking him, saying that, chocolate milk, you want some, pretending like he's a child as they killed this man, right? And there's so many cases. I covered this story a couple months ago in Utah, where there was a 14-year-old autistic child that was shot 4 times in the chest by cops just for existing, just for being alive. Right? This is a huge problem. This is a huge fucking problem. And when I say all cops are bastards, this is what I mean. So let's read. This is from Yahoo. So Mary Wilsey had been confined to her home on the North Carolina coast for about a week. That's where I live. Spending almost every moment monitoring her 18-year-old son, who was suicidal. Think about that, right? You're a mother. And you have a kid who's been alive for 18 years. And I'm sure that those 18 years were difficult, right? But that's still your kid. And you're trying to, again, you have a child who's suicidal. That is just awful to hear. Other than leaving the room to use the bathroom, she stayed by her son's side. You can't ask for more than that. Her son, Keith Vidal, had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and was in a mental health crisis. She tried to have him hospitalized on December 27th, 2014, but a nurse turned him away after telling her that he wasn't having thoughts about harming himself or others. Wilsey knew he was lying. She found a suicide note. Just over a week later, with no change in his behavior, the family turned to the police to ensure Vidal would get treatment. Instead, an officer shot Vidal dead in his home. I want you to understand this, right? There's so much in our society, when it comes to cartoons, when it comes to television, so much of our society and culture is based around, when you need help, call the cops. That's, what our society says. When you watch cartoons when you're 5 or 6, the cops come in and then, they save the day or whatever. And there's a lot of people that watch cop shows all day. And it's oh yeah, they're solving crimes, detectives. That's all propaganda. I like to call it copaganda. Right? But we are inundated with the idea that cops are your friends. So imagine, right? You have an 18-year-old child who is suicidal and you're just trying to help them. You don't know what to do. There's no book that you can read that tells you how to help your child. There's no instruction manual that comes with the kid. Right? You think to yourself, how can I do this? I need help. And you call, you try to get them hospitalized. The hospital says no. You're at your wit's end. What do I do? So you call the police and the police kill your child. This mother, right, for the rest of her life is going to have to know that her kid could be alive but for a cop saying, I don't have time for this. A cop was in a rush to get their Big Mac after their shift, and that resulted in this child being dead for the rest of this mother's life. Or just, it's just unbelievable. We were more concerned that Keith was going to hurt himself. We were never concerned for our safety because he was never a threat to anybody but himself. On the morning of January 5th, 2014, Wilsey had just returned from a grocery store run. She said her son didn't recognize her. Wilsey's husband, Vidal's stepfather, called 911. Can you imagine that scenario? Right? Could you imagine that scenario? Where you've got a child in a mental health crisis, and you go out to get food for your family, soup for your family, no less, and you come home and they don't know who you are. Your own child doesn't know who you are. And so you think to yourself, what do I do? I know, I'll call the cops, because I've been told my whole life, I've been told the cops are the good guys. It's been drilled into my brain that cops are the good guys. I don't know what to do. I'll call the cops. And then the cops kill your child. We explained to 911 dispatch that we have a child who has schizophrenia and they would want to do an involuntary commitment, Wilsey said. So again, they are upfront about this. They told the dispatcher what the exact problem was and what they needed help with. But the cops that were dispatched don't care. They don't give a shit. 2 officers responded. One had been to the home a few days earlier to try to take Vidal to the hospital for a medication adjustment and was familiar with the situation. So one of the people there already knew that family. And they, on the way there, didn't tell their partner, hey, by the way, this kid's, not all there, or, we gotta be, calm and cool, and, but they didn't. And maybe they did, but their partner didn't care. Officer John Thomas from the small Boiling Spring Lakes Police Department and Samantha Lewis Chavez, a deputy with the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office, were patient with Vidal, who was holding a small screwdriver, Wilsey told Insider. They attempted to de-escalate the situation by asking him if they could take him to the hospital to adjust his medication, his mother said. They also asked him how he was feeling and tried to talk with him. Vidal, who was experiencing severe paranoia, was standing in the hallway demanding that the officers leave the house. After about 5 minutes, another officer, Detective Brian Vassy of the nearby Southport Police Department, came through the front door wearing plain clothes. Again, the idea that officers cannot wear uniforms and demand to be treated like officers, I'm sorry. If you don't have a uniform on, you're not an officer. You're a piece of shit. He didn't identify himself, Wilsey said. So for all this kid knows is that there are people in his house that he thinks might try to hurt him. And then some stranger who's not even wearing a police uniform comes in. Again, it's just unbelievable. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't know he was a cop, Wilsey told Insider. He took approximately 8 steps to reach Samantha Chavez and said, I don't have time for this shit. Lewis Chavez later testified in court that Vassy said something along those lines. Vidal ran into the bathroom. When he came out, Lewis Chavez used her stun gun at Vassy's request. And Vidal fell to the ground, according to Wilsey and Lewis Chavez's testimony. Thomas climbed on top of him to take him into custody. Lewis Chavez was also trying to get the situation under control. So you have Keith on the floor, 2 cops on top of him, another cop to my left, and me and my husband are all in the hallway, Wilsey recalled. My husband takes the screwdriver out of his hands, and out of the corner of my eye, I see Brian Vassy take his gun out and do a kill shot. Imagine that. Your child, already this is a traumatic experience. Your child got stun gunned, right? The screwdriver, the only danger that they had to other people, is no longer a danger. And then the cop just decides, fuck it. I'll kill him anyway. The situation's under control, Everything is good to go. But a cop was like, fuck it. I'll kill him anyway. An 18-year-old kid. Fuck it. I don't have time for this shit. Bomb bomb. It's unbelievable. Vassie fired 14 seconds after Luis Chavez stunned Vidal. Luis Chavez testified in 2016. According to the Port City Daily, Vidal had been struck in the armpit. The bullet pierced both of his lungs, and he died soon after, according to his mother and officials. My son is laying on the floor in the hallway, bleeding, dead. I watched his eyes roll back in his head, Wilsey told Insider. I watched my son die. Luis Chavez said the bang was deafening. Thomas said he was so close he went outside after the shooting to ask other officers whether he was injured too. And you can read the rest of this article. It goes into the court case and everything, but again, they following all the rules, everything being under control. At the snap of a finger, a cop can just decide to kill someone. And now a parent has to live the rest of their life knowing that they were responsible in a way, in a roundabout way, they were responsible for their son's death. Because again, this woman and her husband are going to be thinking probably every single day. They're probably again, this is in the news right now. They're probably thinking every single day, if I didn't call those cops, my son would be alive. Again, if you think cops are good, I'm sorry, they're not. And I'm not even sorry, you're just an idiot. Cops are literally Nazis in every sense of the word, the Gestapo. They are an occupying terrorist organization that is paid for by the government to get rid of undesirables. That is their role in society. That's why they treat people with mental health issues so poorly, because they're undesirables. To them, they see a useless member of society. To them, they see a leech. They see, oh, well, I can just kill this kid and save tax dollars down the line. That's their thought process. This kid isn't even human. They're just a creature inhabiting a human body. That's what these people think. And when you dehumanize people to such a degree, whether they be people with mental health issues, whether they be people of certain skin colors, whether they be people of certain genders or, sexual orientations, when you dehumanize someone, you are more likely to kill them or engage in lethal force, even when it's unnecessary. And I cannot understand how a society of humans, we are humans. We are all the same. We are all human beings. How did we get to the world that we live in now? Where humans are killing each other for no reason. There's no reason. This kid should be alive right now. But they're not. Because a cop who was high on pills, that's later in the article, a cop who was high on pills said, I want to go home and get my Big Mac. Fuck this shit. I don't have time for this shit. I want to roll by Wendy's, man. Get some spicy nugs. And now a mother has to think for the rest of their life. The rest of their life. If only I didn't pick up that phone. If only I had known that the cops would... If only I had studied more. If only I had read another book. If only I had done something else. My kid would be alive. This mother is going to be thinking about this every single day for the rest of their lives. All because a cop who was high on pills wanted to go home and get their fucking spicy nugs and Big Mac. It's disgusting. I don't know. It's gross.